Samurai Jack is one of the most visually striking cartoons ever made, stylish, action-packed, and timeless. But beneath all the sword fights and stunning landscapes lies a deeper question. Was Jack's mission really to return to the past? Some fans believe his true purpose wasn't escape, but growth. Every battle, every friend, and every loss shaped him into the hero he was meant to be. His journey wasn't about changing time, it was about changing himself. If Jack had returned too soon, he might have become corrupted by power, worshipped like a god, and ultimately no different from Aku. Instead, his endless struggle humbled him, taught him restraint, and gave his legend meaning. In the end, Jack's greatest triumph wasn't defeating evil. It was mastering his own soul. So without further ado, let's start. The show opens with a solar eclipse casting a shadow over a barren wasteland. A twisted, lifeless tree trembles, rising from the ground and transforming into a tall, dark figure with flaming eyebrows. The figure declares, "Once again, I am free to smite the world as I did in days long past." Not far away, a Japanese emperor tells his son about the war he once fought against a shape-shifting demon named Aku. The emperor recalls how Aku rose from the pit of hate and ravaged the land. Helpless on his own, he sought the aid of 3 mystical monks who forged a magical sword for him. Armed with the blade, the emperor defeated Aku, sealing him within the very wasteland he had created in the form of the Black Tree. Peace followed, but the emperor warns his son to remain vigilant, for evil may rise again. Inspired, the young prince practices with a wooden sword until a massive shadow looms overhead. Aku bursts through the palace walls, destroying everything in sight. The emperor's army attacks but fails, and their weapons are turned against them. As Aku captures the emperor, he shouts to the empress, "Do as we planned! Our future depends on it!" She flees with their son, sending him away to safety while Aku reigns victorious. The prince grows up across the world, learning astronomy, martial arts, and weapon mastery from every culture, shaping him into a warrior destined to face Aku once more. After years of training around the world, the prince finally reunites with his mother at a secret meeting place. They embrace after their long separation, and she returns his birthright, the magic sword of his father, and a white GI. The prince trains with the blade until he is ready to reclaim his homeland and free his people from Aku's tyranny. Back home, the land lies in ruin. Monuments of Aku tower over enslaved villagers, and the emperor is forced to work in the mines under constant torment. Before he can be punished, the prince arrives, swiftly defeating Aku's minions and freeing his father. The emperor warns that Aku seeks to use the mine's riches to grow stronger and conquer the world. When the prince vows to destroy Aku with the sword, his father reminds him that true power lies not in the weapon, but in the hand that wields it. The prince rides to Aku's tower and challenges him. Aku mocks him, claiming no mortal weapon can harm him until the sword cuts through his darkness. Furious, Aku transforms into a gorilla, a scorpion, an octopus, and a goat, but the prince overcomes every attack. Cornered, Aku swears revenge, opens a portal in time, and flings the prince into the far future where Aku rules the world and evil reigns supreme. The prince finally escapes the portal Aku trapped him in and finds himself falling into a high-tech city, nearly getting hit by flying cars. He lands on one of the vehicles but is soon attacked by an APB car. Acting quickly, he slices it apart and safely lands on the ground by jumping from car to car. Moments later, a massive trash compacting vehicle charges toward him. The prince dodges it with his acrobatic moves, climbs onto its underside, and leaps onto a nearby walkway where 3 young aliens had been watching in awe. Impressed by his skill, they start calling him Jack. When the prince asks where he is and who rules the city, they explain that he is in the central hub of Sector D and that Aku is their leader. Looking around, the prince is overwhelmed to see Aku's face everywhere, on billboards, televisions, and delivery trucks. The teens then guide him to a bar to help him calm down. Inside the bar, the prince is stunned to see it filled with aliens. When one alien catches him staring, a fight breaks out. The prince apologizes but ends up defending himself and disarming his attackers. Meanwhile, Three canine archaeologists nearby are asking an alien warrior for help against Aku, but he refuses. Not giving up, they notice the prince's skill in battle and invite him to their table. They introduce themselves as Sir Dreyfus Alexander, Sir Angus MacDuffie, and Sir Colin Bartholomew Montgomery Rothschild III. The archaeologists explain to the prince that Aku has ruled Earth for thousands of years, expanding his reach to other galaxies to gain wealth and control over resources. His empire has turned Earth into a home for countless alien life forms, while his shady business dealings have brought criminals, mercenaries, and stooges from across the universe. During their talk, the archaeologists realize the prince is from the past when he mentions that dogs in his time could only bark. After scanning him, they confirm he comes from before Aku's complete takeover. The prince finally understands that the question is not where he is, but when. Aku has thrown him into the future. The archaeologists plead for his help to free them and their colleagues from Aku's mines, where they are forced to work endlessly and cannot continue studying their ancestors. Moved by their words, the prince agrees to help and introduces himself as Jack, taking the name the teens gave him earlier. As they leave, an unseen spy reports their conversation to Aku. Furious, Aku vows to crush whoever dares oppose him, only to learn that his enemy is Jack. Declaring that Jack will now feel his pain, he sends an army of beetle drones to destroy them. Back at the excavation site, Jack and the archaeologists prepare for the coming battle. Jack and the archaeologists begin preparing for the invasion set to arrive the next day. Jack devises a plan to use the digging and transportation machinery to set up a series of traps that will thin out Aku's army of beetle drones. While the archaeologists handle the trap construction, Jack searches for anything that could serve as a weapon. He soon discovers that the very jewels Aku had forced the archaeologists to dig up can be used as projectiles. Using his ingenuity, he crafts spears and arrows along with a bow. Once the traps are complete, the archaeologists forge armor for Jack while he tames one of the large animals to use as a steed. With everything ready, Jack waits for sunrise. When the morning light hits the valley, the army of beetle drones marches in. Jack mounts his steed and rides out to meet them. Upon seeing the endless horde, he triggers the first trap, massive catapults built from excavation machines. With precise aim, he fires arrows at the start buttons, launching boulders that crash into the advancing drones, destroying several of them. He then activates the second trap, barrels packed with explosives, by firing arrows at the flint on top. A chain of fiery explosions erupts, wiping out even more of the drones. Jack and his steed then charge straight into the chaos. As they rush through the battlefield, Jack fires his remaining arrows, then switches to his spears, taking down several more drones before being knocked off his mount. Now on foot, Jack draws his sword and fights fiercely, but the drones overwhelm him and tear away parts of his armor. Refusing to give up, Jack retreats toward the next trap, unstable rock pillars. He topples them, causing a massive rock slide that crushes many drones and creates a path to his fourth trap, abandoned spaceships converted into flamethrowers. Jack ignites them, unleashing torrents of fire that incinerate dozens of drones before the ships run out of fuel. Still, the army keeps coming. Jack leads them to his final trap, a deep pit lined with sharp spikes made from the same jewels. He leaps across, and the pursuing drones tumble into it, impaling themselves. Yet even with that, far too many remain, and Jack realizes he is out of traps and outnumbered. With no choice left, Jack grips his sword tightly and prepares for one last stand. The beetle drones swarm him, cutting into his flesh, but he fights through the pain, slashing through their ranks with relentless fury. His GI becomes torn, and he rips off the upper half, bloodied and breathing hard. Pushed to his limits, Jack enters a berserk rage, cutting down drone after drone until he is drenched from head to toe in their black oil. The remaining drones hesitate, terrified at the sight of the samurai standing amidst the wreckage of their fallen kind. Jack glares at them and growls, "No." There is no escape. He charges once more, destroying every last one until the battlefield falls silent. With the drones destroyed, the archaeologists are freed and can finally continue their studies of the past. Grateful for his help, they invite Jack to travel with them, but he declines. His mission is not over. Jack sets out once again, determined to find a way back in time and undo Aku's evil. Watching from afar, Aku seethes with rage and finally speaks his name. He vows that he will destroy Jack and that the time and place will be of his choosing. In a quiet forest, Jack sets a vine trap with a carrot as bait, hoping to catch food. As a warthog nears, a thunderous roar startles it away. Moments later, 4 massive, furry beasts crash through the trees, 3 of them ridden by small blue creatures in white suits. One beast steps into Jack's trap, but the vine snags Jack's ankle, dragging him along. Thinking quickly, Jack climbs the vine, leaps onto the beast's back, and topples it near a cliff. The blue creatures rush over, thanking him for helping them capture the creature, which they call a woolly. They invite Jack to their village to celebrate, and he accepts, hungry and curious. During the journey, the creatures explain that their ancestors once battled the woolies but now use technology to control them. When they arrive, the captured woolly is locked in a cage and a lively celebration begins. Jack soon grows uneasy watching the woolies forced to perform tricks and shocked when they fail. Later that night, Jack feeds the imprisoned woolly, which suddenly speaks and begs for help. Before Jack can react, the blue creatures return and electrocute it again, warning him that woolies can control minds. That night, Jack dreams of freeing the woolly from a glowing orb. Realizing it was a vision, he frees it for real. The woolly leads him to their elder, Lazar, who reveals their tragic enslavement by the Crycholites and begs Jack to save them. Jack agrees to help and quietly approaches the rocket where the glowing orb sits, with the freed woolly close behind. As Jack climbs, the woolly accidentally alerts the Crycholites. Thinking fast, Jack pretends to assist them in capturing the woolly, only to throw his sword straight at the creature. The strike does not wound it, but instead shatters the orb's control, restoring the woolly's strength and allowing it to stand upright once more. Realizing Jack's trick, the Crycholites attack, but he and the woolly fight back fiercely. Hearing the distant sounds of battle, Lazar declares that the time has come and orders the other woolies to join the fight. Jack leaps onto his ally's back and urges him to destroy the orb. As they scale the rocket, the Crycholites fire at them, but Jack deflects their shots with precision. When the woolly begins to falter, Jack gives him a quick poke with his sword, and the creature charges upward with renewed strength. They crash into the orb, smashing it to pieces and freeing every woolly from its curse. The Crycholite leader demands the woolies to stand down, but the freed creatures crush his weapon and reclaim their home. The invaders flee into their rockets and vanish into space. Lazar thanks Jack for restoring their freedom and tells him to journey north, where his destiny awaits. A Viking chief leads his massive army of robot warriors through a dense forest toward the legendary well of King Osric. As they approach, a sudden storm of arrows rains down from a nearby tower, striking with deadly accuracy and destroying every last robot. The chief barely escapes with his life. Later in a tavern, the battered chief recounts his tale to a group of listeners. He explains that the well of King Osric is said to grant a single wish, whatever the heart most deeply desires. When his story ends, the barkeep orders him off the chair and makes him swab the deck. Jack, having overheard the story, approaches and asks if it's true. The chief confirms it, pointing to the distant island, but warns Jack of the 3 archers who annihilated his army. Undeterred, Jack sets out to find the well. Upon reaching the snow-covered island, Jack finds the wreckage of the fallen army. As he nears the tower, arrows begin striking around him with precision. One pierces his sandal, another pins his kimono to a tree. Jack frees himself with his sword and takes cover. When he tries to use his blade to reflect light at them, it fails. Dropping his hat, he notices it shredded midair and realizes the archers are blind. Remembering his past training, Jack meditates under a waterfall, blindfolds himself, and prepares to fight using only his heightened senses. Jack, dressed only in his fundoshi, charges toward the tower as the 3 archers prepare to fire. He matches their rhythm, listening, moving, and dodging every arrow with precise timing. Sprinting across the snow, he leaps beneath the tower, using his agility to avoid their deadly shots. The archers pause, straining to hear his next move. Jack suddenly springs up the tower's edge, landing in their midst just as all three release their arrows. He ducks at the last instant, causing the arrows to collide midair, ricochet, and strike the archers themselves. The impact short-circuits them, melting their metallic coating and revealing their true forms, three cursed humanoid warriors. Freed at last, they bow to Jack in gratitude and grant him permission to use the well. However, they warn him that every wish granted by the well comes with a price. They explain that they once fought their way to it and wished to become the greatest warriors alive. The well's spirit fulfilled that desire, but took their sight and sanity in return, enslaving them as its eternal guardians. Enraged by the well's cruelty, Jack raises his sword and declares his wish, that the spirit be destroyed so it may never harm another soul. He plunges his blade into the water, shattering the curse. As he walks away, the freed warriors honor him as the greatest of them all. In a bar filled with alien bounty hunters, Jack quietly walks in and orders a pot of tea. One of the hunters recognizes him, and soon the entire place surrounds him. Aku has placed a massive bounty of 2 googolplex on Jack's head, a price too tempting to ignore. Jack wishes for peace, but the bounty hunters attack, leaving him no choice but to fight. With skill and precision, Jack defeats them all before walking out of the bar. Outside, even more bounty hunters await, including those hiding deep in the forest. Jack keeps fighting, his anger rising as he realizes he can't escape conflict. Meanwhile, Aku watches from afar, mocking the hunter's failure and wondering if any fighting style could overcome Jack's strength. That thought sparks a sinister idea. After defeating the final group, Jack explodes in fury, shouting, "Who else wants some?" When his sandal strap suddenly breaks, it pushes him over the edge. He throws it at a nearby wanted poster, which bursts with dark energy. The energy repairs the sandal and forms a new being, Mad Jack, a living embodiment of Jack's anger, created by Aku's dark magic. Mad Jack declares his purpose to destroy his good counterpart. Their battle is fierce and evenly matched, with sparks setting the forest ablaze. But when Jack sees his reflection mirroring Mad Jack's rage, he realizes the truth. Calming himself, Jack suppresses his anger, causing Mad Jack to fade away. Peace returns as Jack walks off, aware Aku is watching once again. There, a massive creature made of stone and magma rises, introducing himself as the lava monster and roaring, "Welcome to your doom!" Jack asks why so many warriors have perished here, and the creature replies that his purpose is eternal combat. They clash, and though Jack wounds the monster, he refuses to continue, saying there's no honor in fighting for sport. The lava monster rages, forging a crystal sword and attacking again. Jack remains calm, offering his life instead of his sword. Moved, the lava monster stops, revealing his true wish, to fight once more for freedom. The confession stuns Jack, realizing the creature is bound by an ancient curse. The lava monster reveals to Jack that beneath his rocky shell lies a man, once a proud Norse warrior. He shows Jack carvings of his past etched into stone, a reminder of the life he once lived. Long ago, he was a warrior with a loving wife, 2 sons, and a loyal dog in a prosperous kingdom. But one day, a dark eclipse blotted out the sun, and from it emerged Aku. The demon razed the land, slaughtering the warriors who dared resist. The Norse warrior fought bravely but was ultimately overpowered. Rather than kill him, Aku imprisoned him within a crystal, forcing him to watch his kingdom's destruction, denying him the honor of death and entry into Valhalla. Cast into the mountain's core, the warrior endured centuries trapped in rock until he learned to control the lava around him, forging a body and a pathway that only a true warrior could cross. The only way to break his curse was to fall in battle against a worthy opponent, Jack. Jack, moved by the warrior's pain, agrees to fight. After a fierce duel, Jack pierces the crystal, freeing the spirit. The warrior's body crumbles, aging rapidly, yet he dies smiling, finally free. Valkyries descend to carry him to Valhalla, where he smiles down at Jack. As tribute, Jack carves FREE beneath his likeness before continuing his journey. The story begins with Jack traveling across mist-covered hills until he reaches a long, narrow bridge stretching endlessly into the distance. After walking for an entire day, he hears a strange melody echoing through the fog. What begins as a distant tune soon grows into an unbearable noise, the sound of bagpipes. Following the sound, Jack discovers a large Scotsman proudly playing his instrument. Jack politely asks him to stop and inquires if the bridge is near its end, but the Scotsman reveals he has been walking for days without reaching the other side. Jack calmly asks to pass, but the Scotsman stubbornly refuses. Misunderstanding Jack's politeness as arrogance, the Scotsman insists that they are equals and demands Jack move aside instead. When Jack suggests hanging below the bridge to let him pass, the Scotsman takes it as an insult, claiming the offer is dishonest. Declaring that only a duel can settle the matter, the Scotsman readies his claymore while mocking Jack's appearance, calling his sword a butter knife and his hat a basket. The fight begins fiercely, with the Scotsman slicing Jack's hat in half. When he mockingly plays a sad tune for it, Jack stabs his bagpipes in revenge. The battle rages across the bridge through day and night, neither gaining the upper hand, until a band of bounty hunters suddenly appears, interrupting their furious duel. As the bounty hunters close in, Jack and the Scotsman argue over who the real target is, neither realizing the danger until they're both captured and shackled together. Forced to cooperate, they attempt to escape in opposite directions, only to stumble and nearly fall off the bridge. Thinking quickly, Jack slashes the planks beneath them, sending the two plunging into the marsh below as the bounty hunters' vehicles crash in a fiery collision above. After swimming to safety and evading capture once more, the mismatched pair reach an abandoned settlement. There, the Scotsman spots a wanted poster of Jack and angrily accuses him of being the reason they're hunted. Their argument is cut short when the bounty hunters arrive again. Trying and failing to hide, Jack and the Scotsman prepare to fight back, though their shackles make coordination impossible. Amid the chaos, the Scotsman mutters a philosophical remark about how a bow and arrow can only work together, which gives Jack an idea. When one of the hunters fires a massive bullet at them, the two leap into its path, using the impact to shatter their chains. Finally free, Jack and the Scotsman unleash their full strength, demolishing the bounty hunters with ease. Standing victorious, they share a newfound respect for one another. Yet, when both insist on buying the other a drink, their friendly rivalry is officially born. Jack travels toward another time portal, cutting through a swarm of beetle drones along the way. Just as he is about to reach it, Aku appears and lifts the portal out of his grasp. Jack leaps toward it, but Aku mockingly moves it just out of reach before transforming into a bird and flying away with it, leaving Jack frustrated and furious. Later, while moving through a dense forest, Jack meets a wild man who seems to defy gravity with his incredible jumping skills. The man speaks with Jack about his troubles and offers to take him to his tribe, who can teach him to leap as he does. When they arrive, Jack discovers the tribe is made up of white and blue apes who raised the man from childhood. Their agility helps them survive and avoid their enemies, including a rival tribe of red apes that soon attacks to steal their food. After Jack defeats the attackers, he offers to train the tribe in self-defense in exchange for learning their jumping technique. Jack teaches them how to make traps and fight with staffs, while they train him by attaching heavy rocks to his body. When he removes them, he can jump effortlessly. Later, when Aku once again lifts the portal, Jack leaps high into the air, proving he has learned to jump good. The scene opens with a wanted poster of Jack, the most wanted man in the future, while he quietly eats noodles in a tavern filled with bounty hunters. When they recognize him from the poster, they attack, but the Scotsman bursts in and blows up the tavern, saving Jack. Outside, the Scotsman explains that he has been searching for Jack's help. A clan of Celtic demons has kidnapped his wife, and by ancient law, he cannot receive aid from his clan. The only exception allows him to seek help from a stranger, and he considers Jack the strangest man he knows. Jack agrees to help, but must first earn the clan's approval. They travel to the Highlands, where Jack meets the Scotsman's clan and their druid. After passing a strength test in an unusual way, Jack gains permission to join the rescue mission. Inside the Castle of Boone, they find that the demons plan to cook the Scotsman's wife in soup. When they reach her tower, Jack realizes she is even more abrasive than her husband, though this amuses the Scotsman. The demons corner them, and while they fight bravely, they are outnumbered until the Scotsman's wife, enraged by an insult, destroys the horde alone. Grateful but flustered, Jack tries to leave, only to joke about her size and flee as she chases him furiously. Jack walks through a ruined village and finds an injured feline creature collapsing before him. Concerned, Jack asks what happened. The cat weakly explains that the attackers came from nowhere. A flashback shows the cat's village under assault by mysterious assassins using chain claws, buzzsaws, and Gatling guns, leaving nothing but ruins. The cat adds that the attackers vanished as suddenly as they appeared, and with his final breath, tells Jack they went east. Following the trail, Jack reaches another destroyed village, this time inhabited by robots. A dying robot explains what happened. In another flashback, a trio of assassins armed with explosive wires, gauntlets, and flamethrowers obliterate the settlement before disappearing east. The robot repeats that they left as mysteriously as they came and shuts down. Furious, Jack continues east and finds a third destroyed village of robots, though none remain functional. He studies the remains and imagines the massacre: robots impaled by shuriken, sliced apart by blades, and burned. Spotting tracks leading east, Jack follows them until he finds 8 identical baskets that unfold into deadly ultra-robots. Each machine wields unique weapons: Gatling guns, flamethrowers, buzzsaws, chains, gauntlets, shuriken, explosive wires, and a futuristic katana. They reveal their mission is to destroy Jack. Overpowered by their strength and invincible armor, Jack barely escapes and seeks refuge in another shattered village. While hiding, Jack encounters a scientist named Extor, the creator of the Ultra robots. Extor explains that Aku demanded he build ultimate weapons to destroy Jack, promising to spare his village in return. Wanting to protect his people, Extor constructed the robots from adamantium, giving each a unique weapon and ability. He spent days studying Jack's fighting style to ensure their success. Aku then infused the Ultra robots with his own dark essence as a power source. However, once the work was complete, Aku betrayed Extor and ordered the robots to annihilate his village to test their strength. Filled with regret, Extor begs Jack to destroy them. Jack refuses, believing his sword cannot cut through the adamantium and admitting that Aku may have finally won. Extor insists that Jack can prevail with greater strength and offers him a cybernetic, synoptically linked, dynodextric, isometric, polyduratanium power gauntlet, capable of crushing any metal. Using the gauntlet, Jack fights the Ultra robots again and destroys 7 of them before the power runs out. Facing the final katana-wielding robot, Jack discards the arm and readies his sword. Exhausted after a fierce duel, Jack is struck down as the robot mocks him. Jack prays to his ancestors, and a divine light strengthens his blade. Empowered, he rises and slices the robot in one strike. Aku's essence escapes, and Jack swiftly purges it with his sword, while Aku screams in agony from afar. The scene opens in the sky as Jack rides a giant flying insect, chased by robotic feline warriors called Cossacks. Dressed in red cavalry uniforms and mounted on mechanical insects, they fire blue laser spheres at him. Jack skillfully dodges their attacks, turning their weapons against them until only one Cossack remains. The final pursuer charges with a flagged lance, but Jack meets him head-on, slicing through both the lance and the robot with his sword, ending the fight in an explosion. Victorious, Jack is greeted by small raccoon-like creatures in robes who thank him for freeing them from the Cossacks' control. After bowing to one another, Jack continues his journey across bronze-colored grasslands, vast deserts, and treacherous mountains. When he reaches an uncrossable gap, he turns back and eventually arrives beside a calm river. As he bends to drink, his reflection catches his attention. Nearby, he spots an old statue covered in moss. When he clears it, he discovers the ancient symbol of his homeland. Shock and sorrow wash over him as he realizes Aku has reduced his once proud home to ruins. Overwhelmed by grief, Jack remembers his childhood, running through fields, chasing grasshoppers, and laughing with a young girl who joined his game. Innocent moments now replaced by memories of loss. Jack and the girl continue chasing the grasshopper until it spreads its wings and flies away. Seeing her disappointment, Jack folds an origami grasshopper and gives it to her. Touched, she kisses him on the cheek, likely Jack's first kiss. Later, Jack reaches a ruined bridge spanning a dried riverbed, triggering another memory. As a child, he had once fed fish in that same river. A wandering Ronin appeared, pushing his young son in a baby cart. Suddenly, 4 shadowy warriors blocked the bridge. The Ronin advanced, swiftly drawing his sword and cutting down all 4 enemies with deadly precision. Young Jack watched in awe and fear as the brief but brutal fight unfolded. Inspired, he picked up a stick and began mimicking the Ronin's movements. Jack's memories continue as he recalls walking a road to a castle, surrounded by warriors, and embracing his parents before parting ways. In the ruins, Jack finds the remains of his childhood ball, bringing another flashback. As a boy, he was bullied and had his ball stolen, but remembering his father's words that some things are worth fighting for, he cleverly used a flock of birds to scare the bullies and reclaim it. In the present, a burning robot stumbles toward Jack, pleading for help. Placing the ball in his GI, Jack rises and prepares to act while his parents watch proudly from across time. On a stormy day, Jack battles a horde of Aku's robots to reach another time portal that could finally send him home. Though he defeats the machines, the portal is destroyed before he can use it. Crushed by yet another failure, Jack screams in frustration and throws his sword aside, declaring that it is impossible. When a gust of wind blows away his hat, he follows it and finds 3 monks, one of whom catches it. After retrieving his hat, Jack learns that the monks are traveling to the top of a distant mountain in search of truth, a great power said to exist at the summit. Intrigued, Jack decides to join them. The journey up the mountain is harsh and unforgiving. Jack faces fierce winds, goatmen, rock creatures, and freezing temperatures, while the monks seem unaffected. During a violent snowstorm, Jack becomes separated and is attacked by a monstrous Sasquatch. Exhausted and wounded, he defeats the creature by crushing it with an icicle, but soon collapses from fatigue, whispering again that it is impossible. He is then struck by visions of his homeland, his people enslaved under Aku's reign. The monks appear and ask if he has forgotten why he fights. Remembering his purpose, Jack rises, climbs to the summit, and finds not power but clarity. Looking out over the horizon, he vows never to give up and to one day return to the past to destroy Aku. The scene opens on an alien planet where a group of Imakandi hunters track a herd of alien beasts. Using their skill, weapons, and teamwork, they isolate one creature and capture it with ease. Watching from afar, Aku is impressed by their hunting abilities and appears before them, showing an image of Jack. He tells them that Jack has been roaming his world for too long and orders them to capture him, promising endless treasure as a reward. The Imakandi refuse the offer, saying they seek no riches and that the hunt itself is reward enough. That night, the hunters perform a mystic ritual around a fire, channeling energy that sends them to Earth. There, they find Jack in a city sewer and capture him quickly. Disappointed by how easy it is, they decide he is not worthy prey and plan to hand him to Aku. Hearing this, Jack breaks free of his restraints and refuses to be delivered like an animal. Though outmatched, he flees through the sewers, impressing the Imakandi leader, who declares that the hunt has begun. The chase leads across the city and onto a skyscraper, where they corner Jack. When he is bitten by a serpent-like arrow, they save him from falling. Aku appears to claim Jack, but the Imakandi refuse, believing he deserves freedom. Later, Jack awakens beside a blue flame torch that briefly takes their shape, telling him he has earned his right to be free. Reflecting on his dark empire, Aku laments that Jack remains the one hero who continues to defy him. Furious and determined to end their feud once and for all, he summons one of his most trusted servants, Demongo, a sinister being who can capture the essence of great warriors and use them as his puppets. Aku orders Demongo to defeat Jack and enslave his spirit forever, a mission the fiend eagerly accepts. Meanwhile, Jack is journeying through a rocky canyon when Demongo appears and introduces himself. He throws a skull from his chest, which at first harmlessly hits the ground, but after a surge of energy, it transforms into a massive titan. Jack fights bravely, outsmarting the creature by luring it into smashing a canyon wall, causing boulders to crush it. But when Jack turns to face Damongo, the fallen titan's essence returns to the demon's body. Laughing wildly, Damongo releases more skulls, summoning a samurai, a knight, a four-armed warrior, and a tiger man. To Jack's shock, they are all past warriors who once opposed Aku. After a fierce fight, Jack defeats them, but Damongo simply restores them, boasting that his power is limitless. Jack realizes the demon's strength lies in stolen souls. As Damongo unleashes countless spirits, Jack flees into the canyon, pursued by an army of resurrected warriors. Jack manages to hide from the pursuing army by slipping into a narrow side passage, but his reprieve is short-lived. One of Damongo's monsters discovers him, and though Jack swiftly defeats it, the creature's returning essence exposes his location. Surrounded once again, Jack fights relentlessly, cutting down wave after wave of summoned warriors. From above, Damongo laughs, knowing the samurai's strength cannot last forever against an endless army. As more essences flow back into Damongo's chest, Jack realizes he must destroy the source of the demon's power. When the Tiger Man attacks once more, Jack seizes its essence as it returns to Damongo, and in that instant, he is pulled inside the demon's body. Within, he finds himself in a vast void where countless captured souls hang suspended in circles of blue fire. Each represents a warrior enslaved by Damongo's magic. Determined to free them, Jack slashes through every fiery circle with his sword, breaking Damongo's hold on the warriors. The demon screams as light bursts from within him, and when it fades, he is left powerless and surrounded by those he once controlled. As they move in for long overdue vengeance, Jack calmly walks away into the setting sun. Later, Damongo's shattered essence reforms inside a glass skull in Aku's lair. Begging for mercy, he is crushed without hesitation as Aku mutters that the battle continues. The story begins with Jack climbing the side of a steep mountain until he finds a passage leading him to the other side. There, he comes across a fierce battle unfolding near a narrow ravine. Around 300 Spartans are fighting against mechanical minotaurs, holding their ground with impressive strength and unity. Jack watches as a group of robots surrounds a young warrior, the prince. Before they can strike him down, Jack leaps into the fight, skillfully helping the prince defeat the attackers. The robots retreat, dragging the remains of their fallen with them. Jack assumes the battle is over, but the prince warns that they will soon return. Later, Jack and the prince meet the Spartan king and general, who asks why Jack intervened. Jack explains that one of his men was outnumbered and needed help. Seeing Jack's honorable intentions, the king welcomes him and describes their long struggle. He reveals that a mechanical creature resembling an octopus has been ravaging their lands, consuming everything to grow stronger. Unable to breach the mountain that shields their kingdom, it sends endless robotic soldiers instead. For 5 generations, the Spartans have fought them to a standstill, though each battle weakens them further. Hearing this, Jack proposes using a hidden mountain pass for a surprise attack. The king agrees, planning for his son to defend the front, while he, Jack, and a select platoon strike the creature's base. The next day, all goes according to plan, as Jack and the Spartan king manage to infiltrate the stronghold, seeking out the beast. Once they find it, an all-out attack between the warriors and the robotic monster begins. The king's sword breaks in the battle, but Jack throws him his sword as the king tosses him his shield. The two are able to critically injure the monster, with the Spartan king throwing the sword into the monster's head, destroying it, along with his minions being destroyed. Jack shields the king, seemingly dying in the explosion. Years later, the king appears to be on his deathbed, surrounded by his people and his son, now happily married and a father, who hear him as he regales them of this tale. Only Jack's shield was found, and he was remembered along with the other 300 Spartans, but the king believes that Jack didn't die in the explosion, as he quotes, "A warrior that great could not possibly be defeated so easily." And flashing back into the past, Jack's silhouette is shown through the smoke of the destroyed fortress. As the sun sets, Jack treks through a quiet forest and eventually comes across an alpine-looking town. Yawning from exhaustion, he walks down the road in search of an inn. Upon finding one, he steps inside to see the innkeeper sobbing loudly at the front desk. Jack politely asks for a room, and the man leads him upstairs, pointing out its simple features: the bed, the bathroom, and the window. Before leaving, Jack asks why he's so upset. The man replies only with 2 words: the music. Moments later, a heavy techno beat echoes from the forest, and eerie glowing eyes appear beyond the trees. Suddenly, a group of shadowy figures rushes into town, tearing through the streets. The innkeeper runs outside, shouting for his daughter Olivia, but the group attacks him. Jack steps in to defend the man, only to freeze when he learns that the attackers are children. Before he can react, the brainwashed teens overwhelm him and flee back into the forest as the music fades. The innkeeper collapses, heartbroken, revealing that Aku created a hypnotic techno record to enslave the town's youth. Jack vows to save them and free Olivia from Aku's control. Disguising himself in rave clothes, Jack follows the teens into the forest. He infiltrates a massive rave, pretending to dance while avoiding suspicion. On stage, DJ Stylebaiter, Aku's servant, controls the teenagers through his hypnotic beats. Jack blocks his ears with scraps of cloth, readying himself as Stylebaiter commands his minions to attack. Jack climbs the stage scaffolding, battling through the hypnotized teenagers while taking care not to harm them. Outnumbered, he realizes that the only way to end the chaos is to destroy the turntables producing the hypnotic beats. He leaps onto the stage, kicking DJ Stylebaiter aside, but the DJ refuses to let the music stop. Stylebaiter grins and begins firing energy blasts from his gold tooth, forcing Jack to dodge as they square off. Jack demands that Stylebaiter stop the music and free the children, but Stylebaiter shouts that Aku will never be silenced. The two clash in hand-to-hand combat, with Stylebaiter proving surprisingly skilled. Jack soon gains the upper hand, but Stylebaiter calls his DJ equipment to him, merging it into a massive robotic suit. The battle crashes into a muddy ravine where Stylebaiter relentlessly pounds Jack into the ground. Despite his pain, Jack sees the brainwashed teenagers staring helplessly and refuses to give up. Drawing his sword, he charges forward, slashing through the mechanical armor piece by piece until it collapses. With one final strike, he destroys the suit, knocking Stylebaiter unconscious and breaking the hypnotic spell over the teenagers. The freed youths slowly regain awareness as Jack tells them to return home and never dance to Aku's music again. Back at the inn, Olivia runs into her father's arms. As they embrace, the man tearfully thanks Jack for saving his daughter and their town. As Jack travels through the wilderness, Aku watches from his dark tower, fuming over the samurai's persistence and wondering why he still lives. Reaching a crossroads, Jack tosses a stick into the air to decide his path. Unseen by him, Aku changes its direction with his magic, sending Jack toward his doom. Jack walks into a thick fog and soon realizes he has entered a vast cemetery. Aku's laughter echoes as he uses his dark powers to summon legions of zombie warriors. Jack cuts them down, only for them to rise again. Suddenly, a ghostly hag appears and screeches that she will consume his soul. Jack blocks her attack, but she possesses his sword and sends it flying into Aku's hand. Gloating, Aku declares he will destroy the sword and kill Jack with it. Jack flees through the ruins, dodging Aku's laser beams and blade strikes. He picks up a fallen zombie's sword and fights back as Aku shifts forms, from a scorpion to a dragon, then a mantis, and finally a monstrous mass of tentacles. Aku captures Jack, pinning him to the ground, ready to stab him through the heart. Jack whispers, "Forgive me, father. I have failed you." The sword strikes but bounces harmlessly off his chest. Realizing the weapon cannot harm its pure master, Jack reclaims it and attacks fiercely, cutting Aku down until he retreats as a tiny mouse. As dawn breaks over the cemetery, Jack walks onward, victorious once more. After helping another village, Jack is told to travel north to the city of Kojima and meet a guide. The guide leads him beyond the city into the foothills, where Jack must climb a mountain and cross a narrow land bridge. Once across, he reaches a mystical land beside a shimmering lake. When he tries to swim across, he finds he cannot float. He sinks as if he were made of stone. Crawling back to shore, he realizes that not even a fly can stand on the lake's surface without sinking. Soon, Jack notices a group of small, one-eyed robed creatures wading into the water. He rushes to warn them, but they summon an enormous, long-legged lake creature that ferries them, and Jack, safely across. One of the creatures tells Jack that the being is ancient and wise. Jack asks the creature if it knows of a time portal. The lake creature notices his sword and, after delivering the others, carries Jack upriver to a mountain range. There, it summons a massive six-legged beast with great mandibles. After a short exchange, the mountain creature takes Jack onward. Jack passes a cliffside test, defeating shadowy figures, and is then carried by a pterosaur-like creature to a land of rusted machines. There, Jack meets the Guardian, who challenges him. Jack fights bravely, but is defeated. The Guardian spares him, saying Jack is not ready yet. The portal glows, showing an older, battle-worn Jack, destined to return. While traveling alone one night, Jack encounters a young girl crying by herself. As soon as she notices him, she runs away, dropping her teddy bear. Jack follows her to return it and ends up at an old, dilapidated house built in Japanese style. Instead of entering through the front door, he decides to take a side entrance and notices the silhouette of a woman sitting beside a fire through the door. When he tries to open it, a swarm of moths flies past him, startling him. In the next moment, both the woman and the fire vanish. Inside, Jack begins to experience strange visions that show vague glimpses of the people who once lived there and a dark force that destroyed them. He lights a candle to explore further and finds the house in complete ruin. Among the debris, he comes across items like a model ship the family's son was building, and each discovery triggers another haunting flashback. The entire setting feels like a horror film, filled with unsettling visuals and eerie sounds. Eventually, Jack finds the girl again and suggests that they leave. However, when he returns to the entrance, all doors and windows have disappeared. They decide to rest inside. Jack's sleep is plagued with nightmares, and upon waking, he finds the girl gone. Following faint music, he discovers her calmly sitting with her family in a well-lit room, leaving him both confused and disturbed. Jack questions the family about why the room they are in looks so clean and perfect compared to the rest of the ruined house. The father appears confused, while the mother quickly explains that they had gone through a terrible storm and tried their best to maintain what they could. The father then turns to his son and asks if that is true. The boy stays silent, his eyes eerily rolling upward. Jack notices this while the father, sweating nervously, urges the boy to speak about his studies. Instead, the boy's eyes roll completely back, his body trembles, and foam gathers at his mouth. The father insists that his son is unwell, but moments later, the same horror overtakes both parents. The girl apologizes to Jack as all three begin to convulse violently. Streams of black, shadowy matter pour out of their mouths, twisting and merging into a monstrous form. Jack experiences a brief vision revealing the family's tragic fate before the illusion fades, showing the room's true ruined state. The dark creature attacks, ensnaring Jack with shadowy tentacles that pull his consciousness into a void-like realm. There, the family and Jack are bound as the monster feeds on them. Through sheer willpower, Jack summons his sword, breaks free, and slays the creature. Returning to reality, Jack awakens to find the family alive again. Relieved, he leaves them in peace and resumes his journey. In the vast emptiness of space, a massive black void appears, threatening to consume the entire universe. In response, three ancient gods emerge from a nearby star: Odin, the king of the Norse gods; Ra, the sun god of what would become ancient Egypt; and Rama, an avatar of Vishnu, one of the supreme deities of Hinduism. The gods unite against the darkness, wielding their divine weapons to burn away the mass. After a fierce battle, they succeed in destroying it, but a single fragment survives and drifts into the cosmos. Eons pass before the fragment crashes onto Earth, landing in what will one day be Japan. The impact wipes out the dinosaurs and leaves behind a crater filled with black, tar-like liquid. The substance absorbs the surviving creatures and begins sprouting jagged tree-like spikes that crack the ground as if trying to spread its corruption. Centuries later, the expanding pit continues to devour life. During Japan's early monarchy, the forest of spikes reaches near the imperial palace, destroying homes and claiming countless lives. Witnessing the devastation, the emperor resolves to destroy the evil at its core. Ignoring his pregnant wife's pleas, he insists that while she is dear to him, his people are his duty. Armed with a poisoned elixir meant to end the curse, the Emperor leads his elite cavalry into the forest, riding toward the heart of darkness as the ground erupts with deadly spikes. Before the Emperor stands the black pool, still spreading across the land. Determined to end it once and for all, he takes an arrow, coats it with the poisoned elixir, and chants a sacred incantation. He fires the arrow high into the sky, and as it soars upward, it catches flame from the sun before plunging into the pool's center. For a brief moment, it appears that his plan has succeeded. The jagged spikes begin to sink back into the tar-like substance, and the forest grows still. However, the victory is short-lived. The pool starts to churn violently, revealing that the poison has not destroyed it, but instead given it life. The Emperor's horse rears in terror as an enormous spike bursts from the crater, twisting and reshaping into a monstrous figure with flaming brows, massive horns, and a body made from pure darkness. Aku, whose name means evil, has entered the world. After adjusting to his new form, Aku turns to the Emperor and mockingly thanks him for his creation. Enraged, the Emperor attacks, but his arrows vanish into Aku's body, and his sword melts upon contact. Aku bellows that no mortal weapon can harm him. The black sludge rises, binding the Emperor to a towering tree as Aku spreads destruction across the land, leaving the ruler to watch in despair as his palace burns. As Aku devastates the kingdom, the Emperor remains bound to the dark tree, forced to watch his land burn. Suddenly, Odin's white horse, Sleipnir, descends from the heavens and breaks the bindings, rescuing the Emperor. Sleipnir carries him to a high mountain where he meets Odin, Ra, and Vishnu. The gods reveal that Aku is a fragment of an ancient cosmic evil, and that only divine power can stop him. They draw the Emperor's pure spirit from within, and, taking the form of 3 monks, forge it into a shining enchanted sword. Reborn with renewed strength, the Emperor dons silver armor and rides a mystical cloud into battle. Aku laughs, declaring that no mortal weapon can harm him, but his confidence shatters when the enchanted blade burns his shadowy flesh. The Emperor tells him the sword was forged by the gods, yet Aku responds with furious energy blasts from his eyes. The Emperor dodges and strikes again, driving the monster back. In rage, Aku transforms into a massive dragon and attacks, but the Emperor slashes his head off. Aku reforms as a spider, striking again before exploding into black goo that rises, forming an army from his fallen warrior's armor. Surrounded, the Emperor cuts through every shadow soldier until only Aku remains. As Aku tries to flee, the Emperor pierces him with the divine sword, sealing him into the earth as a dark, twisted tree. Returning home, the Emperor embraces his wife and newborn son, promising they will be ready if Aku ever returns. A ninja stealthily infiltrates a Japanese temple where Jack is in meditation. Moving without a sound, the assassin strikes, slicing Jack in half, only to discover that his target is a robot. The real Jack is elsewhere, and Aku appears to praise the ninja for completing his test before sending him to eliminate the true samurai. Meanwhile, Jack travels through a dense jungle, unaware that the ninja is stalking him from the shadows. Just as the assassin prepares to strike, a young boy runs past, chased by giant robotic lobsters. Jack immediately rushes to help, destroying 2 of the machines. The boy explains that his village is under attack, and Jack follows him there, with the unseen ninja still close behind. At the coastal village, Jack battles and destroys a full army of mechanical lobsters, even defeating a towering one that towers over the rest. The villagers celebrate their hero until panic erupts when a woman cries out. Her son has been kidnapped by the ninja. Jack follows the trail to a ruined tower where he finds the boy suspended from a beam. As he climbs up, the boy's terrified expression warns him of danger, allowing Jack to dodge the ninja's surprise attack. The two clash in a battle of light and darkness, Jack adopting pure white robes to counter his opponent's black camouflage. As the sun sets, the light fades, giving the ninja the upper hand until a single reflected sunbeam reveals him. Jack seizes the moment, blinding his foe and hurling his sword to destroy him. The boy embraces Jack in relief as the last sunlight disappears. On a stormy afternoon, Jack takes shelter in a tavern hidden deep within a bamboo forest known as the Shadow of Leaves. Quietly, he prepares herbal tea with the hot water provided and sits by the fire to enjoy it. His peace is soon interrupted when a robotic ghetto blaster enters, blasting hip-hop music, followed by a loud, arrogant man dressed in flashy clothes who introduces himself as Da Samurai. He immediately shows his boastful nature, mocking a patron and bullying the bartender while mixing random drinks to make his own concoction. When he flirts with a refined geisha, she calmly summons 2 robot guards to remove him, but Da Samurai easily destroys them with quick, showy sword moves, calling his weapon Mama. The tavern grows tense when 3 bounty hunter androids arrive, displaying a message from Aku ordering them to destroy Jack. Remaining calm, Jack rises and defeats all 3 in an instant. Da Samurai, stunned by the display, realizes who Jack is and awkwardly praises him while boasting that he is still the better warrior. When Jack ignores him, Da Samurai snatches Jack's tea, rinses his mouth with it, and challenges him to a duel. Outside in the rain, Jack cuts 2 bamboo sticks, explaining that Da Samurai hasn't earned the right to face his sword. The duel begins, and Jack quickly overpowers his opponent with minimal effort. He reminds Da Samurai that true strength begins with mastering oneself. As the rain continues to fall, Jack tells Da Samurai that he who wears a mask cannot see what lies beyond himself. Enraged, Da Samurai grabs his bamboo stick and swings wildly, but Jack calmly blocks every strike. With 2 precise hits to the head, Jack sends him stumbling backward, stripping away his flashy clothes. He remarks that the shell of an oyster only hides the pearl inside. Furious and embarrassed, Da Samurai, now standing in his underwear, leaps at Jack again, only for his attack to be blocked once more. Jack counters with a swift strike to his side, cracking his torso armor apart to reveal that his muscular build was a fake suit hiding his skinny frame and bulging belly. Flustered, Da Samurai throws his stick aside, insisting he will finish the fight with his sword, but Jack silences him as he hears movement in the bamboo. Moments later, a swarm of Aku's assassin droids emerges, revealing that the 3 from earlier were only scouts. Jack readies himself for battle while Da Samurai tries to retreat but is caught by the robots. With unmatched skill, Jack defeats the entire army using only his bamboo stick. The shattered robots reform into a massive creature, but before Jack can strike, Da Samurai pushes him aside and takes the blast. Wounded yet inspired, he watches as Jack destroys the monster with a single sword throw. Jack tells him he has taken his first step toward the true path of the samurai and walks away, while Da Samurai eagerly follows, calling him sensei and asking for his next lesson. Jack battles yet another army of beetle drones in the snowy mountains, cutting through them with his sword as the wind howls around him. After he destroys the first wave, Aku, sniffling, coughing, and clearly sick, appears in the sky to send another round of drones. As Jack leaps onto a broken drone and rides it toward Aku, the demon sneezes violently, accidentally launching a dark glob of his own essence onto Jack. Aku waves him off, muttering, "No, I will not fight you today. I don't feel good," before vanishing into the clouds. Unaware of what just happened, Jack trudges on through the freezing wasteland, but the cold slowly overtakes him. He begins to hallucinate, seeing visions of his mother and father, before collapsing in the snow. 2 miners find him and bring him into their tent, giving him food and warmth. They explain that they've been mining for rare gems and need just 1 more to retire. Jack thanks them and promises to keep their secret, but the miners notice strange black marks spreading on his hand. The next morning, Jack leaves despite their protests. When he reaches into his robe, he's shocked to find the miners' gems, stolen without his knowledge. As guilt and confusion consume him, he encounters a hiker hanging off a cliff and debates whether to help him for goodness or reward. The dark thoughts grow stronger, and Jack's body twitches uncontrollably. By the time he reaches a nearby village, his arm jerks, his breathing grows ragged, and the infection covers half his body. When he accidentally slashes an innocent robot in anger, Jack sees the black ooze spreading on his reflection and realizes with horror that Aku's essence is taking control. Jack searches desperately for a cure before Aku's essence completely transforms him into the monster himself. He decides to find the lizard monks, hoping they can help him. With his infection growing stronger, he steals a tent to hide his appearance and travels through the snow until he reaches their hidden temple. The monks welcome him and bring him before Master Ning, their leader. Ning explains that the Pool of Convergence, a sacred place they use to study all realities, might be able to send Jack home. When Ning asks what Jack seeks, a tear falls from Jack's eye, just as the infection takes over his body. Now consumed by Aku's influence, he declares that he intends to destroy the pool. Ning quickly calls his brothers to defend it. Jack Aku wields Jack's sword with terrifying power, defeating the monks despite their brave resistance. As he prepares to strike the pool, one final group attacks, and in the struggle, the pool is destroyed. Master Ning subdues Jack, who, before losing consciousness, begs for forgiveness. Later, Jack is suspended above the pool's remains as Ning performs sacred prayers. Ning explains that only Jack's will can fight the evil within him. Jack says he cannot do it alone, but his inner spirit awakens as a child comforted by his parents. He sees visions of his allies forming a fortress of light. With a heart-shaped arrow, he fires into the sky, transforming into his adult self in full samurai armor. Wielding the beam as a sword, he cuts through every shadow of Aku and purges the darkness. When he wakes, Ning tells him that though the pool is destroyed, the Nexus still remains and will one day be restored. Grateful, Jack says all debts are paid, all but one, and returns the stolen gems to the miners. While traveling aboard a ship, the Scotsman relaxes on deck, working on his tan, when a bounty hunter suddenly aims a weapon at him. Without hesitation, the Scotsman knocks him out cold with a single punch and loudly demands a drink. A waiter quickly arrives to serve him, but when the Scotsman looks up, he is stunned as the waiter looks exactly like his old comrade, Samurai Jack. The man, however, introduces himself as Brent Worthington and speaks politely, showing no recognition of the Scotsman. At first, the Scotsman assumes Jack is joking, but he realizes something is off when Brent calmly explains that he follows a life of non-violence and carries no sword. Trying to jog his memory, the Scotsman grabs him and shouts reminders of Jack's heroic deeds and the bounty Aku placed on his head. The commotion draws the attention of nearby bounty hunters. When one confirms that the waiter resembles Jack, the Scotsman urges him to prove it, resulting in Brent getting punched into a stack of crates and knocked unconscious. With enemies closing in, the Scotsman fights them off, grabs Brent, and leaps overboard after tossing a grenade. As they drift in the sea, Brent wakes up, confused about how he got there. The Scotsman jokingly tells him he lost the fight, blaming the sun's glare. Soon, fishermen riding giant fish surround them. The Scotsman readies for battle, but Brent translates their bubbling speech and explains that they mean no harm. They reveal that Jack once helped their undersea kingdom against Aku's forces. Though Brent denies being that hero, the Scotsman grows more convinced he's the real Jack with amnesia. After reaching an island, Brent thanks the Scotsman and tries to leave, but the Scotsman refuses, determined to help him recover his memories. Spotting a fresh scar on Brent's chest, he recognizes it as the mark of the Tango Beast and declares it their first lead. Lifting the reluctant Brent onto his shoulder, the Scotsman sets off to hunt the creature and uncover the truth. The Scotsman and Brent arrive at the Tango Beast's lair, but Brent insists he is not Samurai Jack. Refusing to believe him, the Scotsman releases the scent of the wily Jub plant to provoke the beast, hoping to jog Brent's memory. The creature charges, causing Brent to faint, and the Scotsman defeats it with one punch. The Tango Beast confirms that Jack once fought and later befriended him, helping him rebuild his confidence. When asked where Jack went afterward, the beast points the way, and the Scotsman carries Brent along. Later, Brent regains consciousness, and the Scotsman spots sandal prints nearby, believing they belong to Jack. The trail leads them to Hex Bucket, a filthy port town filled with shady merchants. Brent doubts he would ever go there, but the Scotsman forces him into a bar called the Stinking Hole, and demands if anyone recognizes him. The patrons notice a huge wanted poster of Jack and attack. The Scotsman fights them all, hides Brent in his sword sheath, and escapes with a grenade blast. Outside, they meet an old storyteller who recognizes Brent as someone who once listened to his tales. When asked, the storyteller recalls Jack visiting to hire a ship for unknown lands. Treating this as proof, the Scotsman drags Brent to a chart house, where a chartman explains the fishman's kingdom lies beneath the great unknown, an uncharted sea no one has returned from. Despite Brent's protests, the Scotsman hires a crew, pays them gold, and sets sail to uncover the truth. Having boarded a ship to the great unknown, the Scotsman and Brent begin a rough voyage, especially rough for Brent, who spends most of it seasick. When the ship reaches the great unknown, the waters fall eerily silent. Trying to ease the tension, Brent serves drinks, but soon a strange, haunting song echoes through the fog. The captain, entranced, orders the ship toward the sound while the Scotsman alone remains unaffected, grumbling that the voice is dreadful. They arrive at a foreboding island crowned with a skull-shaped mountain, surrounded by wrecked ships. Under the song's spell, the crew marches ashore with offerings, and the Scotsman follows them into a treasure-filled cavern. There, he discovers the source of the melody, 3 ghostly sirens whose beauty hides their malice. Their lair is filled with enslaved sailors, Vikings, pirates, naval officers, and even robots, all bewitched by their singing. The sirens notice the Scotsman's immunity and demand to know why their magic doesn't work on him. He proudly declares that their voices could never compare to the voice of his beloved wife. When he demands to know what they did to Samurai Jack, they reveal that Jack had once tried to free their captives. They wiped his mind, stole his sword and gi, and left him to wander lost and broken. Furious, the Scotsman attacks with his gun leg and grenades. The sirens send their thralls against him, but he refuses to harm them, instead realizing he must fight back not with weapons, but with music louder and purer than theirs. The Scotsman pulls out his bagpipes, takes a deep breath, and plays an incredibly loud tune. Everyone, including the sirens, covers their ears as the noise shatters the siren's spell, freeing everyone they had enslaved. Furious, the sirens merge into a massive 3-headed serpent and wrap their coils around the Scotsman, crushing him while he continues to play. Seeing his friend in danger, Brent looks at his sword and clothes, remembers his true identity as Samurai Jack, and quickly changes back into his old self. He charges in and slices off all 3 of the monster's heads in one powerful strike, saving the Scotsman. Grateful for Jack's help, the Scotsman thanks him warmly. Later, the Scotsman retells the whole adventure to Jack, who finds it funny since he barely remembers his time as Brent. Their amusement fades when they notice that all the ships have left them behind. Irritated, the Scotsman spots a small rowboat, and the two decide to use it. They soon argue over who should row, so Jack suggests a contest to decide. They start with a pebble-throwing challenge, where Jack wins by skipping his pebble farther. The Scotsman insists on more contests, a race around the island, various strength challenges, and finally a thumb wrestling match. Though he puts up a fierce fight, the Scotsman loses again. Accepting defeat, he sulks as Jack rows them back to the mainland. In his dark tower, Aku humorously picks up a phone and places what sounds like a pizza order, but it turns out he's calling for a giant bounty hunter to capture Jack. The towering brute arrives in a goofy car, only for Jack to destroy him with ease. Next, a massive robot appears, extending a giant cannon that fires a single pebble, which bounces off Jack's sword before the robot topples and explodes. Soon, an army of robots attacks, but one trips, causing a domino effect of explosions that wipes out the entire group. Jack doesn't even move. Disgusted, Aku decides to handle the samurai himself. Jack goes to grab his hat when Aku appears, prompting Jack to shout his name. Aku rolls his eyes sarcastically and mocks Jack's observation skills. As Jack prepares to fight, Aku humorously predicts how their battle will play out. Jack attacks, Aku flees, and they repeat the same fight a week later. Aku's words prove true, annoying Jack further. Aku then proposes a duel with no armies, no bounty hunters, and no sword. Jack agrees, but insists Aku can't use powers, minions, or shapeshifting, forcing him to fight in human form. At sunrise, they battle in the Valley of Corpses. Jack wins through pure skill, but Aku cheats by stealing his sword. Fortunately, it's a fake. Jack reveals he planted decoys everywhere. He retrieves the real sword hidden beneath the sand and strikes, sending Aku fleeing once more, vowing revenge. In a rainy, nameless city, water drips from rooftops and lampposts as an old-fashioned car sits quietly by the street. Behind the wheel is a red-eyed robot, X-49, who slips a CD into the player. A techno-trumpet tune fills the air, and as time seems to slow, he mutters about the rain, how it makes him sentimental. Speaking directly to the viewers, X-49 explains his strange emotions and begins to tell his story. He recalls how Aku created robots to strengthen his empire, evolving from clumsy machines into the deadly X-series, robotic assassins in coats and fedoras built to hunt down rebels. But X-49 was different. Crafted by an eccentric engineer, he was designed to learn, to feel, and to understand. With that gift came the realization that what the X-series did was horribly wrong. Unlike his emotionless counterparts, X-49 grew self-aware while the others perished in battle. In his grief, he lost control, destroying an entire district in a furious rampage. That's when he met Lulu, a small pug with a heart-shaped tongue and a smile that melted his metal heart. She gave him peace, and together they vanished into retirement, ignoring Aku's new beetle drones and living a quiet life filled with music and jazz. But peace never lasts. One day, Lulu vanished. X-49 soon learned Aku's agents had taken her to force him out of retirement. With a heavy heart, he donned his suit, loaded his guns, and set out for one last mission. Rain pours over the decrepit alley as X-49 sits silently in his car, staring at the abandoned Beetle robot factory where he has finally tracked the samurai. It feels almost poetic, returning to the place where so many of Aku's creations were born. With quiet precision, he steps inside, his guns drawn and senses sharp. The air hums with decay and faint echoes. He spots a small campfire burning against a wall, a lone silhouette seated beside it. As X-49 creeps closer, a loose bolt clatters to the floor. Instantly, the silhouette vanishes. Gunfire erupts, ricocheting across the factory as conveyor belts and machinery roar to life, filling the air with noise and smoke. X-49 methodically destroys every moving part until the factory falls silent again. Steam begins to hiss from ruptured pipes, cloaking everything in a dense white mist. Sweat-like condensation glistens on his metallic frame as he stalks forward through the haze. Suddenly, he spots a tall shape and fires. The figure collapses, leaking dark oil. As X-49 inspects the body, he realizes it is an old X-series robot. Disgust and sorrow flash across his face just as he senses someone behind him. There's a swift clash of metal, and X-49 falls. As the samurai sheathes his sword, he hears a fading voice. "Take care of Lulu." Jack turns back, sorrow filling his eyes. In X-49's car, Lulu's photograph rests on the seat as the rain continues to fall. An army of beetle drones relentlessly chases a family surrounding the mother, daughter, and baby. Just when hope seems lost, a lone, heavily armored figure arrives on a weaponized motorbike. The young girl barely recognizes him as Samurai Jack, who swiftly destroys the drones using his bike's weapons and a handgun, saving the family before riding off. The scene then transitions to Season 5's opening monologue. 50 years have passed since Episode 52, and Aku has repeatedly blocked Jack's attempts to return to the past. Aku's tyranny has spread across time, corrupting the past, present, and future. Although Jack has not aged, seemingly immune to time, years of fighting have left him weary and losing hope, though his determination to undo the past keeps him moving forward. The story shifts to a shrine where women in robes bearing Aku's crest bow before his statue. A woman gives birth to 7 daughters, each presented to the statue as future killers of Jack. Meanwhile, Jack rides through the desert and forest, pausing at a river to drink. He begins hallucinating his parents, who accuse him of betrayal, and then sees tortured souls and a dark-armored samurai on horseback. Terrified, Jack flees. Elsewhere, the 7 daughters undergo harsh training, with Ashi briefly distracted by the outside world. Her mother, the High Priestess, indoctrinates her to believe Jack must be killed. As Jack camps at night, hallucinations of his father and the Dark Rider force him to escape once more through a burning forest. Jack follows a rising plume of smoke to a ruined city, where rubble and the corpses of its citizens tell of widespread destruction. There, he encounters the robot assassin Scaramouche, who boasts of being Aku's favored killer and mocks Jack's changed appearance, including the loss of his sword. In a flashback, Jack remembers his sword falling into an abyss and feels horror at his vulnerability. Scaramouche laughs, claiming Jack is no threat without it, and calls Aku on a mobile phone, but Jack destroys the device with a thrown kunai. Satisfied, Scaramouche attacks, first using a magical flute to animate a golem from the city's rubble. Jack soon realizes that Scaramouche can rebuild the golem continuously by reanimating rocks. After incapacitating it, Jack hallucinates the rocks as the city's children begging for help, with the Dark Rider looming above. Though shaken, Jack pleads with them, causing Scaramouche to call him Boku Cuckoo. Jack destroys the flute, but Scaramouche reveals his voice is the true source of magic. By scattering, he animates his sword to attack Jack. The fight escalates as Scaramouche reveals a tuning fork-like blade capable of shattering Jack's swords. After a fierce battle, Jack throws his remaining sword, causing it to explode and destroy Scaramouche's vocal cord equivalent. With the robot defeated, Jack cleaves him in two and keeps the tuning fork sword. Meanwhile, Aku's 7 daughters have grown into adults, completed their final tests, received masks of Aku, and are ordered to find and kill Jack. Aku wakes disinterestedly in his bed, and when his name is called, he learns that some subjects have brought tribute. Rising to greet them, he sees they are mud people causing a mess and immediately orders them to leave. Soon after, Aku's scientists present a new beetle drone designed to kill Samurai Jack. To their surprise, Aku declares he does not care about Jack and tells them to deploy the drone if it amuses them. However, out of view, Aku meets with a psychiatrist, himself in therapist clothing, and confesses his true concern. After destroying all time portals to trap Jack in the future, he had hoped age would defeat him. Instead, Jack became immune to aging, forcing Aku to face the reality of coexisting with the samurai indefinitely. Still, Aku remains confident someone will eventually end Jack. Meanwhile, a white wolf in the forest senses danger as it encounters a fork in the road, turning left, mirrored by Jack. The wolf fights 3 giant tigers, while Jack destroys a large beetle drone with his trident. Unseen, an unknown presence watches, and Jack's motorcycle hits a trigger wire, causing a crash and vehicle explosion. He is brutally attacked, losing his armor, weapons, and even part of his beard. Seeking shelter inside the ruined drone, Jack's doubt manifests as a hallucination of his younger self. They debate the futility of his battle, but Jack refuses to give up, insisting he has always found a way against Aku's threats. Through a crack in the metal, he sees the haunting horseback figure and a distant temple, signaling challenges ahead. Jack decides to make a run for it, racing through the rain as his focus sharpens. Glancing behind, he finally identifies his attackers, the 7 daughters of Aku pursuing him relentlessly. He reaches a ruined temple complex first and hides while the daughters split up to search. Failing to find him, they meld into the shadows, waiting for Jack to reveal himself. When he tries to slip away, they quickly regroup and chase him again. Barely evading them, Jack reaches the basement, where a large tomb holds multiple coffins around a skeleton on a throne. The daughters arrive and begin searching, soon closing in on the coffin where Jack is hiding. Their combined assault shatters the coffin, and Jack narrowly avoids being struck. Grabbing the skeleton's battle axe, he fights back but is quickly overwhelmed, losing the axe and his armor. As he nears an exit, one of the daughters ambushes him with a sword. Jack disarms her and, in the struggle, slits her throat, discovering with horror that she is human. Despite bleeding from a dagger wound to his stomach, Jack recovers his tuning blade from her corpse. Using it, he strikes the hallway walls, causing rocks to vibrate and explode, falling into the river below. The remaining daughters are blocked from following. Jack floats downstream, severely wounded and bleeding, while the white wolf in the forest, after defeating the tigers, lies unconscious from its own injuries. Barely alive, Jack floats downriver, managing to grab a drifting log. A frog hops onto it, warning him that the daughters are close behind. Eventually, Jack reaches the shore and makes his way to a cave, stalked by the mysterious samurai figure. Inside, he pulls the knife from his side and passes out. While unconscious, his hallucination taunts him over his first human kill, suggesting he wanted the daughters to end him, though Jack denies this. The next morning, blood-soaked, Jack prepares to defend himself, but the same injured wolf from before enters the cave. Jack passes out again, remembering a childhood memory of his father defending their family from bandits. Upon waking, he bonds with the wolf and nurses himself back to health. Inspired by his father's lesson, Jack parts ways with the wolf, ready for another confrontation. The remaining 6 daughters of Aku leave the ruined temple, tracking Jack by the river and his blood trail. In the forest, they encounter deer for the first time, misinterpreting the male deer's antlers as a threat and frighten it away before resuming their search. As snow falls, Jack reveals himself, echoing his father's words and giving the daughters an ultimatum: leave or face their destiny. When they refuse, he attacks, impaling one with a wooden spear, killing a second, and using a stolen kanabo and butterfly sword to defeat 2 more. The final 3 combine to fight him, but Jack separates them and sends 2 falling from a cliff. Only Ashi remains, and despite her threats invoking Aku, Jack releases her chain and falls into the valley below as the tree collapses beneath them. After a nightmare of fighting the daughters of Aku, Jack wakes in the snow, having survived the fall into the valley. A trail of blood leads him to Ashi's body, seemingly dead. Jack hallucinates a murder of crows taunting him for killing humans, but he defends his actions, insisting the daughters had already chosen their path. Ashi miraculously survived, forcing Jack to restrain her again. As she swings from a tree, insulting him, Jack reflects on her mindset and decides to show she is not his enemy. Before he can convince her, a giant monster erupts from the ground and swallows them both whole. Inside the beast, Jack protects Ashi from her attacks and breaks their fall. While resting, Ashi gloats over their predicament, praising Aku, but Jack remains hopeful, recalling his experience navigating large creatures and searching for another way out. Suddenly, blue-green creatures attack, and Ashi tries to push Jack toward them, attempting to kill him. Using a severed appendage as a sword, Jack fights off the creatures and rescues Ashi, strapping her to his back as they retreat deeper into the monster. While resting again, Ashi dreams of her mother's orders to kill Jack. She awakens and sees him nearby. A small puffball creature suggests Jack leave Ashi, believing her evil. Jack refuses, arguing with his own hallucination to her confusion. When a red crab-like creature kidnaps Ashi, Jack kills it with a makeshift mace and rescues her, though she shows no gratitude. The puffball jokingly asks if he expected a hug or kiss, much to Jack's annoyance. As Jack presses onward, Ashi continues ranting about his inevitable demise while praising Aku. Fed up, Jack tries to reason with her but fails, and they are soon forced to take shelter from a hail of needles. While waiting for the storm to pass, Jack explains acupuncture to Ashi, removing the needles and attempting some small talk. Later, after hiding from a centipede-like creature, Jack fashions armor from its discarded exoskeleton, much to Ashi's disgust, which he takes as a compliment. Climbing higher, Jack spots a potential way out, but Ashi sabotages their ascent, sending them both falling. He manages to grab a makeshift vine, saving them and keeping Ashi restrained for the rest of the climb. At the top, Ashi admires the flying creatures, while Jack identifies an exit across a pool of acid. Hitching a ride on one of the flyers, they are chased by a large, transparent fish-like predator. Using the creatures to evade it, they jump through the exit and land in the surrounding ocean, freeing Ashi. On a nearby desert island, Ashi prepares to strike Jack with her sickle, but a passing ladybug reminds her of a childhood memory in which her high priestess punished her for a similar distraction. Seeing Jack interact harmlessly with the insect, Ashi drops her weapon, realizing the samurai may not be truly evil. Disturbed but reflective, she sits on the island at a distance from Jack, beginning to question her indoctrination and making tentative peace with her former enemy. 3 armies, including an elderly Scotsman and his 100 daughters, launch an assault on Aku's lair. Inside, a bored Aku takes notice and decides to intervene, believing it will relieve his boredom. He swiftly destroys 2 of the armies before focusing on the Scotsman's daughters. The Scotsman remains behind to distract Aku, buying his daughters time to escape. Frustrated by the Scotsman's constant insults and praise for Jack, Aku vaporizes him with his eye beams. The daughters mourn their father, but thanks to Celtic runes on his sword, the Scotsman survives as a ghost in his prime. He and his daughters agree to continue seeking Jack and fighting Aku. Meanwhile, on the island, Ashi questions her purpose. The moon transforms into the High Priestess's face, commanding her to kill Jack in his sleep. Ashi refuses, explaining that Jack saved her life and that she only wants the truth. Shocked by what she perceives as weakness, the High Priestess dismisses Ashi. As the sun rises, Ashi notices Jack running and chases him to the water, where he emerges on the back of a tamed water dragon. The dragon carries them safely back to the mainland, where Jack thanks it and bids farewell to Ashi. That night, after a brief hallucination by the campfire, Ashi catches up with Jack, demanding answers. Gazing at the stars, she asks if Aku created them, and Jack responds by telling her a bedtime story from his mother, promising to reveal the truth in the morning. The next morning, Jack shows Ashi a lone tree surrounded by spikes, a remnant of a forest destroyed by Aku to display his power. He then leads her to the city of Aku, where he steals clothes from local vendors to disguise himself and reveal the city's dark side. An exiled criminal arrives from another world and is welcomed due to his evil nature, settling in a peaceful village while threatening the villagers, further convincing Ashi that Aku is truly evil. She agrees to help defeat him, though Jack warns that without his sword, they have no way to succeed. Soon, they encounter a wounded blue creature who explains that the children of his village were kidnapped and taken to a nearby factory to power a new mega-robot. Jack and Ashi infiltrate the factory, quickly finding the children who have gone feral due to mind control implants. Jack keeps the children occupied while Ashi searches for the signal source but is captured by a guard called the Dominator. He tortures her with electrocution while explaining the factory's plan, pausing only to recharge his armor. Enduring the pain, Ashi breaks free, removes the Dominator's helmet, and hurls him into the control panel, killing him and freeing the children. When the children's implants short-circuit, they collapse, appearing dead. Jack cries out in agony and sees the mysterious samurai who has been following him. Calmly, Jack accompanies the figure out of the facility. Later, Ashi finds the children alive and calls for Jack to share the success, but he is nowhere to be found. Ashi travels alone on an airship when two large, hooded creatures attack, believing she is one of Aku's bounty hunters. She quickly assures them she only wants to help Jack. Convinced she is not an enemy, the creatures reveal themselves as woolies and recount the story of how Jack saved their people from the Crycholites. When the airship reaches its destination, Ashi thanks them and jumps, using her kusarigama to land safely in the forest below. Meanwhile, Scaramouche's severed head reactivates. Despite his destroyed mobile phone, he resolves to contact Aku to report that Jack's sword is missing. While walking through the forest, Ashi witnesses someone fighting beetle drones. The attackers are revealed as the three blind archers, whom Jack saved decades earlier. After Ashi pledges her allegiance to Jack, the archers escort her to their village, where a statue honors the samurai. Although they have not seen Jack since, they remain loyal, and Ashi continues her search. Later, Scaramouche reaches Hex Bucket Seaport, and, despite repeated delays by a cautious sailor, manages to sneak aboard a ship with help from a small-headed accomplice. That night, Ashi discovers a rave outside a village, where the DJ, an older Olivia, sings of Jack's heroism in saving them from Aku. Inspired, Ashi approaches a waterfall in the forest and recalls her mother's indoctrination, where she and her sisters dove into burning ashes. Diving into the river, Ashi scrubs off the ashes, lets her hair down, and fashions a new outfit from foliage, symbolically leaving her past behind and embracing a fresh start. While relaxing on the ship, Scaramouche spots a phone booth and attempts to call Aku. However, he is quickly drowned out by a crowd of anthropomorphic dogs. When he rudely insists on using the phone, the dogs take offense and toss him overboard, much to his frustration. Meanwhile, Ashi stops at a tavern in the forest to escape the rain. She asks the bartender, an older Da samurai, where to find Jack. Pretending to be hard of hearing, he waits for her to reveal her intentions, after which the tavern patrons surround her. As they share their scars and praise Jack as the greatest warrior, Da Samurai recounts how he met Jack, changed his ways, and eventually became the tavern's bartender. Dimongo briefly arrives but leaves upon seeing the poor condition of the warriors. After leaving the tavern, Ashi meets a strange girl with large eyes who tells her to travel north to find Jack. Following her advice, Ashi discovers Jack in a cemetery, surrounded by the ghosts of legendary samurai. The shadowy horseman appears, ready to help Jack commit seppuku for his perceived failure. Ashi intervenes, reminding Jack of everyone he has helped and confirming that the children they saved are alive. Reassured, Jack regains confidence, defeats the horseman using the sword intended for his own ritual, and restores the other ghosts to their graves. He thanks Ashi for her help and compliments her new hairstyle and dress. When Ashi asks what comes next, Jack explains it is time to find his sword. In a flashback to 50 years ago, Jack explains to Ashi how he lost his sword. Climbing to the top of a mountain with 3 small rams, he jumped into a time portal, only to be pulled back by Aku. When Jack attempted to use the portal again, Aku destroyed it, revealing it was the last one, trapping Jack in the future forever. Angered, Jack lashed out, but Aku mutated the rams into monstrous forms to toy with him. Jack fought and killed the corrupted rams but lost his sword, which teetered over the pit where the portal had been. When the rams returned to normal, Jack realized he had spilled innocent blood. He tried to recover his sword, but a collapsing pillar caused him to lose it for good. In the present, Jack and Ashi ride a giant bird to explore the pit but cannot find the sword. Jack concludes that the sword left him and decides to embark on a spiritual journey to reclaim it. Although Ashi offers to help, Jack insists it is a journey only he can undertake through meditation. While Jack meditates, Ashi spots an army approaching the mountain. Searching the spiritual realm, Jack arrives at a house in the middle of water where a monk invites him in for tea. Meanwhile, Ashi confronts orc-like warriors ascending the mountain and defeats them single-handedly. Just as she spots another attacker, she calls for the giant bird to reach higher ground. The assassin fires an arrow at Jack, but Ashi blocks it with a stone slab. The attacker reveals herself as the High Priestess. The High Priestess berates Ashi for her failure and lack of focus, but offers her one last chance to kill Jack. Ashi refuses, explaining that Jack showed her the truth about Aku. Using one of the ram's horns as a makeshift dagger, she protects Jack while holding her ground against her mother. The High Priestess scolds Ashi for sparing Jack despite his killing of her sisters. Ashi asserts that she and her sisters were raised as living weapons, their fates already chosen. Before the High Priestess can strike Jack, Ashi recovers from the rubble and throws one of her mother's arrows back at her, hitting her in the back and sending her plummeting to her death. Exhausted from the fight, Ashi collapses. Meanwhile, in the spiritual realm, the monk criticizes Jack's tea, saying it lacks balance, which prevents him from finding the sword. Confused, Jack asks the monk for guidance, but the monk insists it is not within his power. Jack's hallucination angrily claims the monk knows the sword's location, but Jack realizes that his own anger and frustration had blocked his path. Accepting this truth, he dispels the hallucination. With his balance restored, Jack faces the supreme deities Odin, Ra, and Rama. They deem him worthy, restore his original appearance, and return his sword, now strengthened by the purity of his spirit. Back on the physical plane, Jack wakes Ashi, who compliments him on his new form. With his sword at his side and confidence renewed, Jack tells Ashi it is time to confront Aku for the final battle. In the depths of space, a massive rectangular spacecraft collides with a large asteroid, crashing to Earth over the Sahara Desert. Meanwhile, Jack and Ashi prepare to board a giant camel-like creature acting as a desert ferry. After sampling some food from market stalls, which temporarily turns Jack's head into a tropical fish, they board and begin their journey. Soon they are surrounded by a crowd of green tiger men wearing lettered shirts. The close encounter makes them nervous, but a mutual attraction begins to grow. Jack soon notices the tiger men's shirts spell out, "Die, Death, and Die, Samurai Jack," revealing a trap. Jack and Ashi fight back, their connection growing stronger with each near collision, and eventually retreat from the creature to continue on foot. Stopping at an oasis, Jack makes handmade straw hats for both of them. A sandstorm forces them to take shelter in a towering structure, which turns out to be the crashed spacecraft. Exploring, They discover it is a massive prison, though all prisoners have vanished. Ashi is bitten by a leech-like creature, which Jack kills, but a green infection begins to spread. He quickly sucks out the poison and stops it. As a horrific screeching sound echoes, they attempt to leave but become lost in the corridors. Eventually, they reach a large chamber with a broken glass prison cell and confront the creature, a massive swarm of leeches forming a humanoid shape. The creature attacks, throwing pieces of itself, and Jack cuts a ventilation line, allowing the two to escape amid the steam. Jack and Ashi reach a door, which scans them to confirm they are not prisoners and lets them in. Inside, they discover the ship's armory. A computer voice explains that the creature that attacked them is known as Lazarus 92 and shows a weapon designed specifically to kill it. Unfortunately, Ashi accidentally sets off a laser rifle, causing Jack to miss the part explaining how to arm the weapon. Ashi grabs a double-bladed spear and shield, and together they head out to battle. They soon encounter Lazarus 92 again, but Jack cannot figure out the initiation sequence. He tosses the weapon to Ashi while he holds off the monster with his blade. A swarm of leeches outflanks them and attacks Ashi. She fights them off, but the creatures tear away her clothing, leaving her bare, which embarrasses Jack. He quickly removes his GI and drapes it over her to protect her. As they continue fighting, the leeches surround them, and Jack desperately works to activate the weapon while Ashi covers him. Just as the swarm overwhelms them, Jack finally triggers the sequence. The weapon electrocutes the leeches, killing them instantly. The attack also neutralizes the infection in their wounds. Exhausted but relieved, Jack and Ashi turn to each other. After surviving the ordeal and realizing the depth of their feelings, they finally embrace in a passionate kiss, cementing the bond that grew through their trials and battles. After their kiss, Jack and Ashi quickly pull away, feeling nervous and slightly disgusted from Lazarus 92's venom. Ashi offers Jack his GI, but he insists she keep it until she finds new clothes, noting that the ship is drafty. Soon, they spot a hole in the ceiling leading outside. While Jack investigates a broken water pipe, Ashi searches for something to wear. She finds a large sweater and boots in a locker room and politely leaves Jack his GI while he showers outside. Alone, Jack notices a bearded reflection warning him to be careful, and he agrees, realizing this situation is unlike anything he has faced before. That evening, after hunting some worms for dinner, the two share awkward small talk. Ashi asks about Jack's home, and he opens up, sharing memories of his childhood before Aku's return. When she asks if he ever had a girl in his life, Jack explains there was no time since he was only 8 when Aku returned, and that memories are the only way he can revisit his past. The next morning, Ashi wakes to find Jack has left again. Meanwhile, Scaramouche finally arrives at Aku's lair atop an octopus. After some confusion with a speaker box of Aku, he demands to speak to the demon. Aku reluctantly listens, confirming the status of Jack's sword. Rejoicing, Scaramouche has his body restored and he and Aku dance in celebration. Back in the desert, Jack returns to a robot graveyard and discovers that the Guardian and the Time Portal are gone. Ashi confronts him and he admits he left to protect her. She assures him they are meant to face Aku together. Moments later, a voice shouts, "Samurai Jack!" Jack and Ashi turn to see Aku, followed by Scaramouche. Aku claims he knows Jack lost his sword, having learned it from Scaramouche. When Jack denies it, Aku destroys Scaramouche's head in frustration. As he prepares to leave, he smells something familiar, himself, nearby. Confused, Jack watches as Aku calls a timeout before approaching Ashi. She grabs a sword to defend herself, but Aku announces he senses a piece of himself inside her. Ashi is shocked as Aku recalls visiting the cult of Aku, giving some of his essence to its members. This revelation explains that Ashi and her sisters are literally the biological daughters of Aku. Horrified, Jack attacks, but Ashi blocks him, controlled by Aku's essence. Aku uses his power to mutate her into a demonic minion, forcing her to fight Jack. Jack pleads with her to resist, but she cannot. Seeing the battle escalate, Aku pours more of his power into Ashi, amplifying her abilities and fully transforming her into a demonic version. Although initially outmatched, Jack manages to break Ashi's sword and cut her arm, briefly reaching her consciousness. Ashi begs Jack to end her life and stop Aku, but he refuses. Before she can act, Aku intervenes, stopping her joyfully and claiming Jack's sword. Jack, exhausted and conflicted, admits defeat as the horrifying scene closes, leaving the fate of Ashi and the battle hanging in suspense. Many of Jack's allies gather around television sets to watch a live broadcast from Aku's lair. With a mocking performance of the show's original opening monologue, Aku announces that he has captured Jack and plans to execute him on live television. Unsure how to finish him off, Aku decides that Ashi, still under his control, should be the one to kill Jack. The samurai pleads with her to resist, but she appears to ignore him. Just as Ashi is about to strike, Jack's allies break into the lair, attacking Aku. Seizing the moment, Jack runs toward his sword but is stopped by Ashi. Meanwhile, Aku crushes the army's attacks, corrupting a group of the blind archers on woolies into smaller clones of himself. Despite their efforts, Jack's allies are overwhelmed until the Scotsman and his daughters arrive. Jack regroups with the Scotsman, who introduces him to his many daughters. Jack politely declines any marriage offers, explaining that he has already met someone, gesturing to Ashi, leaving the Scotsman questioning his taste. Suddenly, Robo-Samurai appears and savagely attacks Aku. As he prepares to finish the demon, Aku escapes into the sky, raining spikes on the army. Inside, Jack confesses his love to Ashi, and she finally breaks free of Aku's control. Realizing she retains Aku's powers, Ashi counters his attacks, retrieves Jack's sword, and creates a time portal to return him to the moment Aku first sent him to the future. For the first time, Aku faces defeat, powerless to stop Jack from returning to the past and altering the course of history forever. The scene returns to the final moment of Episode 1, showing a weakened Aku attempting one last effort to send Jack to the future. As he monologues about their inevitable reunion, Jack and Ashi emerge from their portal mere seconds later. A stunned Aku exclaims, "You're back already!" as Jack charges with his katana raised. Despite Aku's desperate attempts to fight, he is no match for Jack's 50 years of experience and skill. Jack swiftly tears through the demon's defenses and finishes him by leaping into the air, stabbing Aku's final fragment and trapping him within his blade. With a mighty shout of "No! More!" Jack thrusts the sword into the ground, finally destroying Aku and his lair. Jack and Ashi escape just in time. Later, as Jack and Ashi prepare to wed, Ashi suddenly collapses. Jack rushes to her side, learning that because Aku was destroyed in the past, Ashi was never meant to exist. She fades away in his arms, leaving her empty bridal kimono behind. Jack is left devastated, mourning her loss in the forest. While grieving, Jack notices a ladybug, reminding him of Ashi. He realizes that even though she is gone, he is grateful for their shared memories. Her sacrifice allowed him to save the universe and secure the future. Jack smiles, letting the ladybug fly away as the clouds part to reveal the peaceful forest below, untouched by Aku. The scene closes with hope restored, showing that the future will be bright. So that's our take on Samurai Jack's true journey. What do you think? Was Jack's destiny to return home or to find peace within himself? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.